So it's official. Marathon is a disaster and Bungie is over. Or maybe Marathon's a hit and Bungie's saved. Or maybe Marathon is something in the middle. Or forced to evaluate things in a binary of this is the best thing ever or this is the worst thing ever. It's probably closer to that one. For those of you who are too busy playing Resident Evil Requiem to notice that Marathon finally released this past weekend, the path this game took to becoming a game that you can actually play is an arduous one. The original Marathon was released all the way back in 1994 by Bungie and was a modest success, selling under 200,000 units, but receiving mostly positive reviews. Bungie would of course go on to revolutionize the first-person shooter genre with Halo for Microsoft. Halo would go on to become a worldwide phenomenon and the first multiplayer shooter many gamers ever played. I know for me, I got Xbox Live, tried out Call of Duty, then popped in Halo 2, and I was hooked from then on. That continued with Halo 3, possibly the most fun that I've ever had with multiplayer shooter to this day. These two titles made me a fan of the franchise for life, so much so that I still buy every Halo game, even if the quality isn't what it once was. Bungie and Microsoft went their separate ways in 2007, with Microsoft buying Bungie out and retaining the rights to Halo. Bungie would work on Halo 3 ODST and Halo Reach before finally charting their own path with Destiny. The idea of having an FPS MMO on consoles was pretty ahead of its time when it released all the way back in 2013 under a publishing deal with Activision. The series would really explode in popularity with the release of Destiny 2. Out from their publishing deal with Activision, Bungie was able to bring the game to Steam, and it hit an all-time player peak of 316,750 players, which is incredibly impressive. But Bungie wanted to try something new and different from the PvE-focused Destiny. At the time, games like Escape from Tarkov, an extraction shooter, were becoming popular, and one thing that the past few years has proved to me is that developers of video games absolutely love extraction shooters. Personally, I kind of think that they love them a bit more than there's a demand for them, though it makes sense. After about a decade of the same old Battle Royale games taking the industry over, developers were probably wanting something that felt fresh and exciting. The ability to have those intense moments where you're in a firefight about to lose everything similar to a Battle Royale, with the added layer of collecting gear and bringing it back to your hideout, was enticing and exhilarating. It's the best of both worlds, intense while allowing players to work towards a long-term goal. Unfortunately, Bungie began to run into trouble. Destiny players felt abandoned by Bungie, and this came to a head when the game's director, Joe Ziegler, shared some unfortunate quotes with Game Radar Plus. Quote, "I think if we are only looking for a PvE experience, Marathon is not the game for you. We are very comfortable saying, yeah, this isn't a game for everybody. This is a game for if you like PvP experiences, especially in sandbox spaces, then this is probably something you're going to enjoy." Ideally, when creating a new IP, and for all intents and purposes, Marathon is a new IP, you generally want to bring along fans of your previous work. This felt like Bungie was moving on from Destiny and the community that had built up around it and burning all the goodwill that they had built up to that point. The reaction to the game was lukewarm with alpha testers. Then came a blight on the game in the form of accusations of plagiarism. Now, I've done videos in the past covering the allegations in depth, but to make a long story short, an artist saw some of their work in Marathon, just in different colors. Bungie settled with the artist and removed the offending material, and that, coupled with a lackluster response to the alpha, led to Bungie delaying the game from September 23rd, 2025, all the way to March 2026. While this game was delayed, a new extraction shooter was beginning to take the world by storm, Arc Raiders. With a focus on PvE, while still having PvP in it, it burst onto the scene. It was the rare extraction shooter that crossed the barrier into the mainstream and was handsomely rewarded for it. On Steam, it reached a peak of 481,966 players, which at the time of writing was 4 months ago, and managed to hold strong with a peak concurrent player count of 235,475 in the last 24 hours at the time of writing. That's a ridiculously good percentage of players staying with the game far after launch. As for Marathon, they held a server slam event which was free for anyone to partake in from February 26th to March 2nd. That hit a peak player count of 143,621. However, when players actually had to pay for the game, things didn't go as well. The game was released on March 5th, 2026, and hit a peak player count of 88,337, with a peak of 77,371 players in the last 24 hours at the time of writing. Now, these numbers aren't too bad. Granted, you'd like to see them closer to 100,000 concurrent players, but the reception to the game itself has been mostly positive from what I've seen. This is, of course, mostly from streamers and YouTubers, as Bungie has asked review sites to hold off reviewing the game until they're able to implement some updates. Is that kosher? I don't know. Is it fair to ask reviewers to hold off if the game is released and selling to players? I'm not so sure. Regardless, Bungie finds themselves at a strange spot. You have this PvP-focused extraction shooter, which had a lot of its thunder stolen by Arc Raiders, a surprise phenomenon. Already, people are saying that it's over for Marathon, and that Marathon is a failure, despite it being quite good by all accounts. The internet loves to see something fail, especially when it's considered to be part of the AAA gaming section of the industry. At a time when live service games are releasing and then quickly being shuttered, like Highguard, will Marathon be allowed to have a slow start and build up over time? I think that's an issue not only for the developers, but the potential buyers. Do I really want to pay $40 for a game that might be gone in a year or less? Probably not. It feels like these games need to be huge from the moment they release, and everything that led up to Marathon releasing worked against it in a way that the launch was pretty much destined to be a disappointment. It's also just a bad time to release a game. People are out of work or working under the threat of being fired, so they are less inclined to spend money on games, let alone one that has an uncertain future. Games just aren't afforded the time to find themselves any longer. You either are a hit or are forgotten. We'll see what Marathon becomes, but the initial launch doesn't have me too confident in its long-term appeal. Maybe the strong word of mouth will overcome those factors working against it. It really needs to land with streamers and influencers so that they can, influence fans to buy the game. It also has to be given time to grow. It feels like it would be dumb for Sony to pull the plug too soon, but we've seen that they're willing to do so already with a game like Concord. Fortunately for Bungie, Marathon is way more successful at launch than Concord ever was, so there's still time to get things right. But what do you think? Will Marathon be able to climb out of the hole that it's dug for itself, or will it be another high-profile disaster in the live service genre? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thank you so much for checking out this video. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe. New videos coming out at least once a week here on the channel, and check out our other channels, which include Those Fake Nerds for nerd and pop culture news, Wicked Sports for sports news, Better Radio for all of our podcasts, and our newest channel, History is Wicked, where we cover cryptids, urban legends, and weird history stories. Again, thank you so much for your time, and I will see you in the next one.